My name is Ryan Hall, and I'm the Associate Director of Transportation. And today I will be covering some of our payroll policies. All of the things that I'm bringing up today you can find in the Transportation Employee Handbook. And I very much recommend that you spend a little bit of time, sit down and read the entire handbook from beginning to end. And I also recommend that you read the entire district handbook as well. There's a lot of really good information in there that can answer a lot of the questions that you may have as a new employee or even as an existing employee. This presentation is just going to go over some of the basics. If you have questions after watching this presentation, please get with either Moxie Walker or any of the other supervisors or trainers will be able to assist you with any of the questions that you have. So the first thing I want to do is kind of put our employees into two different categories here, at least at the beginning. So we have bus drivers and monitors are on a 186-day per year calendar, okay? Crossing guards are 183 days, so there's a little bit of a difference there. Also, bus drivers and monitors work 6 hours per day. That's what they're contracted to work. Crossing guards, on the other hand, are contracted to work 4 hours per day. Now, they could go over, of course, but this is like the minimum that you are expected to work per day. Crossing guards are a little bit unique in the sense that if they were to come in for a morning shift and only worked 1 hour, they're guaranteed a 2-hour clock-in period. So if you work 1 hour in the morning and then go home, I will guarantee you that you are going to get the 2 hours for that morning shift. If you come in the afternoon and only work an hour, you're also going to get 2 hours for that shift as well. Bus drivers and monitors are in a slightly different situation. So they get 6 hours per day, 5 days a week. That's equating to 30 hours per week. So most of our seasoned drivers know that they don't necessarily get 6 hours per day depending on how long their route is. And the difference between how long your route is per day and how many hours you're supposed to get for that day is extra duty time. Not everybody gets the exact amount of extra duty time every day because obviously with drivers and monitors, their routes can change from day to day due to a variety of circumstances that are out of their control. Trains, traffic, accidents, weather, supervisors asking you to go on extra routes, change in routes, so forth and so on. But what's really important that we understand here is that you are required to get those 6 hours per day, meaning you will get your 30 hours per week by the end of Friday. There is flexibility built in this system for our drivers and monitors, meaning that let's say you only end up working 5.5 hours Monday through Wednesday. Well, so you're kind of in a deficit of 1.5 hours to reach your 30 hours for the end of the week. So what that means is you're going to have to make up that time on Thursday and Friday. And how do you make up that time? Well, you're going to have to do something that's to the benefit of the district and the department. And that time and those activities must be approved by a supervisor prior to you doing them. A lot of these activities are going to be things that you're probably going to be doing on a regular basis. For example, maybe you're on the detail team. The detail team, depending on your circumstances and whatever arrangement you've worked out with the supervisor who is running the detail team, might allow you to work Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 2 hours each day. And that will get you your 30 hours for the week. Maybe you're in a situation where you need to work 5 days a week for 3 hours each day working at a campus. And that gives you your 30 hours for the week. Okay, so I could go on and bring up a variety of examples of how people can get their time. I think probably of all of the 60 plus drivers and 20 plus monitors that work here, they all have their own unique schedule and what they do. What's really important to remember is when you're trying to find your extra duty time and activity, that you are communicating with a supervisor prior to those things taking place so that it's approved and everyone knows what you're doing. It's not something that you just go on your own to a campus and get your time, or you decide to come in on a Friday and get 5 hours of extra duty on that day. It's something that needs to be prearranged with the supervisor prior to it taking place. And it's something that is probably going to end up being on a regular basis. Okay, so once you get your schedule in place and you will have your route going on a regular basis, or as a crossing guard, you're reporting to the same campus on a regular basis, and you start to do your extra duty activities as a bus driver or a monitor to get your 30 hours per week, and you fall into a routine. It's important to remember that as a bus driver or a monitor that you do not go over 30 hours per week, and as a crossing guard you do not go over your 20 hours per week. There are certain circumstances where a bus driver or monitor or crossing guard would go over their 30 hours per week or 20 hours per week, but it's important to remember that that can only happen with prior approval from a supervisor. And typically that's going to happen for established positions that are currently in the department. For example, maybe you're a router who works for David, or maybe you're a trainer who works for Moxie, or maybe you are a dispatch assistant working for Brianna. And in those positions, it's established understanding that you're probably going to go over 30 hours. Of course, there are other ways that an employee could go over their time. For example, maybe it's a Friday afternoon and you're driving a route and you know that when you're done, you're going to be right at 30 hours, but then all of a sudden something unfortunate happens, and let's say there's a ton of traffic and routes are delayed and you end up going 2 hours over your expected drive time for that day. Well, those circumstances are out of your hands and there's nothing you can do about it. This rule of not going over 30 hours per week without prior approval is something where we're talking about you are deliberately and purposefully not paying attention to your time and you're getting more hours per day than you need to, and that is something that we're trying to limit and discourage. And so, once again, I'll just reiterate, it's very important that you are aware of your time day by day, that you're checking it, that you're monitoring it, and that you are predicting where you are going to end up being at the end of the week so that you can properly schedule yourself and keep supervisors informed of your activities as the week is going on so that you don't go over the 30 hours per week if you're a driver or a monitor, or the 20 hours per week or if you are a crossing guard. Okay, as the week is going on, you may forget to clock in the morning, or maybe accidentally after you finish your morning shift, you leave without clocking out. It happens to everybody from time to time throughout the year. Not a problem. If something like that takes place, or you need to make an adjustment to your time for any reason, we have pink slips. They're half the size of a normal sheet of paper, and they can be found either at the annex or at the west side. All you have to do is speak with a supervisor and they can get you a pink slip. Sometimes they're just out there in the hallway and you can pick one up. They're very simple to fill out. You just put in your first name, last name, put your date, the date down, and then of course put the times in that you need to have the adjustment made for. Sign your name, and on the west side you're going to end up turning these pink slips into Brianna Foster or Ryan Hall, myself. If you are at the annex, you're going to end up turning that into David Montaigne or whatever the process is that's over there. There's probably something set up, a basket for you to turn in the pink slip, and then the pink slip is brought over to the west side where the adjustment is made. Another thing to keep in mind is clock-in times. So as a driver and a monitor, you have a route sheet. The route sheet is predetermined and created by the routing assistants, and on it it's going to have an AM and a PM clock-in time. It's important to remember that drivers and monitors are not allowed to clock in prior to the clock-in time on the route sheet, not even by a minute. It shouldn't happen. Clock in at the time that is on your route sheet. If you need to clock in prior to that time, all you have to do is get prior permission from a supervisor. Crossing guards are in a little bit different situation, being that they don't have a route sheet, but they need to speak with Leora Pizzana, and she will be able to establish a clock-in time for both the AM and PM for all crossing guards, and the same rule applies for them. If Leora says the clock-in time in the morning is 6 a.m., then we clock in at 6 a.m. We don't clock in at 5:55 or 5:50. You clock in at the time that you're supposed to, and the same rule applies for the afternoon. Okay, let's move on to what it means to be short for the week. If you are a bus driver, for example, and you come in at the end of the week with 27 hours on the clock, okay, you are short 30 hours of the required time that you are supposed to get. As a bus driver, you are required to get 30 hours per week, assuming that it is a 5-day work week. So Monday morning rolls around, we're starting to look through payroll, we see that you have 27 hours, you're short the 3. What's going to take place is we're going to give you a phone call, we're going to talk to you, we're going to find out why you're short. Maybe you're short because you forgot to clock in. In that case, we fill out a pink slip, we make the correction, and we move on. If it is, in fact, you are short 3 hours for the week, and because you are required to have the 30 hours for the week, that time would come from your vacation or your sick leave. If for some reason you need to put in leave, a leave request, maybe for vacation time in the future or sick leave in the future, maybe you have a doctor's appointment you need to make a couple of months down the road or a couple of weeks down the road, or maybe you're currently sick at home, then you would need to use Skyward to request your leave. Now, this process is pretty simple, but I'm not going to get into all of the steps right now. This is something that your trainer, when you come into the department, will be able to actually walk you through step by step on a computer on how this process works. But essentially, if you are sick for the day, you would call in, get it approved, and then go on to Skyward, put in the leave request, and then it would be approved so that you could be paid for the day. Same thing with vacation or scheduling a doctor's appointment in the future. You would do that through Skyward. And that concludes my presentation. These are the basics that all employees need to be aware of. Of course, like I said, go back, read the handbook from beginning to end, make sure it makes sense to you. If you have any questions, speak with the trainer, speak with the supervisor. We'll be able to help you out. But I really want to end on this note that this position and this department is unique. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it's not your standard 9-to-5 job where every day you're going to clock in and clock out at the exact same time. You need to be self-aware of what your time is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that you prepare and act professionally and responsibly to ensure that you are going to get your 30 hours for the week and that you're not going to go over, and that you are communicating with supervisors on what you're going to do and how you're going to get your time. At some point, you will get an established routine in place, and pretty much Monday through Friday, you know where you're going to be. Supervisors are going to expect you to be there and completing those tasks. If something spontaneous happens or unpredictable takes place and you need to change your routine or your schedule, it's something that you have to speak to a supervisor about so that they understand what you're doing. You don't just go ahead and do it on your own. Just make sure that everyone's aware of what's taking place, and you'll be good to go. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please speak with the supervisor, and we'll do everything that we can to help you. Go Rattlers.